and welcome to the Executive Voice podcast with me, Abe.
And me, Isobel. Kirk.
We're sitting together, as we like to do, to have a look at some of the famous speakers throughout history and things that are in the public eye at the moment, to have a bit of a look at the performance.
Yeah, analyse what works with the communication rather than... Inevitably, the content of the communication will be involved, but we're approaching it primarily from the way you would an actor, saying, look how that's been handled. What's the impact?
And fortunately, Isobel is very well qualified to do this, coming from a theatre background through to coaching many of Australia's top executives as a master performance and voice coach.
And some of whom are involved in this bank stuff that's happening at the moment. So when we look at that, which is what we're going to be doing today, I'm speaking from first-hand experience, without naming names.
Yes, keeping confidentiality, of course.
Yeah.
So, as we've alluded to, today we're going to have a bit of a look at the Royal Commission, which is underway at the moment, into Australian banking. It turns out about 90% of financial advisors have been found to be ignoring clients' best interests, charging fees to dead clients, ongoing fees for no service. One of the AMP executives said that their bank is putting profit before the law. It's a pretty big deal.
All of this rich pickings for us. I know we've done a lot looking at how are people messing this up, but this is rich pickings to look at this from many different aspects to do with communication.
Yes, having a look at the performance, as you said, what's working, what's not, and the seething inner life, to use one of your quotes, of the people who are under the gun.
Yeah. Let's play it, and then we'll play it again, doing a stop-start.
Okay.
When did you first become aware that there was a potential issue of clients of CFPL being charged ongoing service fees but not receiving the service?
So there's obviously three components of issues that CFPL was working through.
I have hesitated to interrupt you. I will interrupt once.
Yes.
We will get on better if you listen to counsel's question.
Yep.
If you have to stop and think about the question, do it. But listen to counsel's question and answer what you are asked.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner.
Please put the question again.
Ms. Perkovic,
yes.
Is the reason that you are dissembling in the way that you are dissembling because you are trying to preemptively explain why it took CFPL more than 2 years to notify ASIC of its breach?
I'm just trying to explain to you in this 2-year period before we actually identified that we actually had a problem with OGS as to what we were solving for with the information that was in front of us in a broader context of the business.
Ms. Perkovic, I do not regard that as answering counsel's question. Please ask the question again. I want you to listen to it and I want you to answer it directly as you can. Please put the question again.
It's very interesting how people are so tempted, and again, this has happened to me when I've been working with some of these senior executives. They're very interested in getting their point across. Did I get all my points across, and did I get them across clearly? And what I have a devil of a time getting them to understand is it's not what you say, but it's why you say it, which leads to how you say it. Mm-hmm. So if you're saying to somebody, oh yes, I love you, why do you question it? That can, with Pinter, have a whole stack of subtext, which is what makes theatre so interesting, because somebody's saying something, and Ibsen for the first time introduced this kind of thing. You say one thing and you mean exactly the opposite. Mm-hmm. What was fascinating for me was that the three people in the clip we're about to play each wanted something different. The CBA manager wanted to be left alone. She wanted to throw up as much white noise and fog as she possibly could, and in the best of all scenarios to have them say, oh, I get it, this is very complicated, can you please tell me more, so that she could trot out the stuff that they'd rehearsed to get them all off the hook. The lawyer wants, if you were an actor playing him, maybe you'd want to play the action, he wants to nail the banks. The Royal Commissioner wants to get at the truth.
Yeah.
So each of these three performers have a different goal. They each want a different thing. She is labouring under the misapprehension that if she gets her points across, she'll get what she wants. She's completely forgetting it's not just what you say, but why she's saying it, which is dictating how she's saying it. And we're seeing right through that.
Yeah.
The lawyer is doing a much better job because he's learnt rhetoric, which we talked about before, and we will, I'm sure, another time. What he wants and what he's saying tend to be much more aligned. And the commissioner, his frustration and years of being lied to show in the world-weary way that he's saying it. Do I yet again have to ask her to tell the truth and stop using jargon and obfuscation?
Right.
So let's do a stop-start on this.
Okay. There will be a link in the bottom of the video so people can play along at home if they want.
Follow the bouncing ball.
That's right. Okay.
When did you first become aware that there was a potential issue of clients of CFPL
So
being
this is a
charged
lawyer
ongoing
using
service
rhetoric.
fees but not receiving the service?
And now.
So there's obviously three components of
pause
issues
already.
that CFPL was working
Perkovic,
through.
Yeah, she's
hesitate.
already clearly racing through a whole bunch of things in her head, and it's not connecting with her physical presence at all.
No. So she's power dressed. She's put a lot of work into that. Power hair. All of that's perfect. But she's looking down, and then she used the word obviously. So it's obviously. Beware of anybody who says, well, to tell you the truth, because it's invariably when they're going to lie.
Right.
Well, obviously.
It's not obvious.
It's not going to be obvious. And so she looked down.
Shuffled her papers.
Yeah. So that's, I want something, but everything that I'm doing says the opposite.
That's right. I'm getting ready to try to throw up another smoke screen.
Yeah.
And he cuts her off pretty much straight away.
To interrupt you, I will interrupt once.
Okay,
Yes.
so pause.
We'll
So
get
this
on
is
better if you listen to counsel.
This is the weary grandfather, and he's being very polite. I apologise for interrupting you, because clearly he doesn't interrupt generally in these sorts of things, and this is a public one, which these commissions usually aren't. So he apologises kindly to her. I apologise, and he apologises to the lawyer because he has to be on the side of the law, and he can't, be offensive. I'll only interrupt you once. And
He's
of course,
clearly at the end of his tether with the obfuscation that's been going on.
but he anticipates what he wants in his act. I will say this once. I'll tell subtext, please make your questions very clear.
If you have to stop and think about the question, do it. But listen to counsel's question and answer what you are asked.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner.
Please put the question again.
Ms.
From
Perkovic,
Okay, so
Yes.
is the
pause.
reason that you are dissembling in the way that you...
Please put the question again, and he leans back. Right. I've got control of the boat. I've got my hand on the rudder. I know where we're going. And of course, being humans, they disobey.
Yeah. And we can already see her...
She's gone for her
taking
glass of water.
taking a sip
Her
as
mouth's
a-
gone dry.
Yeah. It's the
the
primitive
way-
brain is kicking in as she's... How do I be honest here?
Yeah, I
don't know.
can't be. If your mouth goes dry, just bite your tongue. That'll bring saliva into your mouth. Yeah. Secretly, not some great big gnashing
Don't hurt yourself. Don't make yourself cry.
or bleed.
You are dissembling because you are trying to preemptively explain why it took CFPL more than 2 years to notify ASIC of its breach.
And pause. So he's saying to her that extraordinary Shakespearean word, why you are dissembling.
Dissembling.
Why
That's
doesn't he
good.
say you're lying?
Yeah.
And they're not allowed to. And then he's saying because you are trying to... He's not coming to the point either. You can imagine the commissioner going, I don't believe this. He's not being clear either.
Use plain language.
You're preemptively trying to... In other words, he's saying, are you thinking ahead and doing mental gymnastics and trying to come up with
Trying
a
to trick
trick
us.
answer.
Yeah.
Why doesn't he say that? Are you lying because you're trying to trick us?
Right.
If you were the blokes, the grandfather, you'd be rolling your eyes and thinking, well, these young people, I can't believe it.
And do you think there's something to do with the idea that people think if they use more flowery language or they use more grandstanding kind of acting, that they're going to appear to have more gravitas and more sincerity?
What's very interesting is the further up the ladder you get, I found this in corporations and in this legal thing very clear, the clearer you are.
Right.
So the commissioner is being, no, hang on a minute, he's talking like that. He's talking the way you do when you chat over a fence. As you go down the ladder in status, the language gets more florid until you get people who are experts make things sound simple.
Yes.
People who are not experts use flowery language in order to grandstand.
And interestingly, I've heard that the same is true in the military, where the higher up, the more clear. They'll say, look, this is what we're trying to do. And the further down you go, the message gets filled with all of this military jargon and obfuscation, to overuse that word, just because you don't really want people questioning their orders when they're down at the grunt level.
And they're not as courageous. They're not as clear. They're very rarely do those people using that sort of language move to the top.
Right.
I've walked into boardrooms where we're working with the CEO, where he's got his feet up on the desk and he comes out and says things really clearly that a child could understand.
Yeah.
And then as that's translated down the ranks, you get, and one day we'll deal with it, that horrible thing where nothing's remotely like it's supposed to sound.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to a human at all. Okay, continuing.
I'm just trying to explain to you in this 2-year period before we actually identified that.
So she's using, I'm trying, but you use the word try when you don't succeed. I'm trying to give up smoking instead of I'm giving up smoking. Yeah. I'm trying to make it clear to you, no, you're not.
So the purpose that's coming through there is when you say I'm trying, you're actually saying I'm not going to.
And we'll have a look at language another time.
Yeah.
The word try is fascinating.
Yeah.
So did you notice when she said I'm trying to explain to you, he moves sideways, he's not even listening, he's picking something up.
Yeah.
As soon as you use the word I'm trying to get you to understand my point of view, you've lost them.
Yeah. And her body language, again, you can look at the clip to watch and see. Her body language is exactly the same as her voice in that it's bleeding a lot of energy. She's all over the place. She's blinking a lot and shifting a lot in her seat. She's not really looking like somebody who's calm, in control, and is communicating directly.
And hard to fake that. That's why actors take 3 years at NIDA to learn how can I say somebody else's words and make it look as if I mean it.
And again, this is another one of those situations where it's not easy. She's under fire, they're under fire. She's not in the position of power that the lawyer is or the commissioner is. It's really tough to nail that genuine empathy and remorse in that situation.
You can't.
Not when you've got a team of your legal staff who've told you only say this.
That's right. Yeah. And she'd be absolutely screwed if she told the truth.
Sure.
We actually had a problem with OGS as to what we were solving for with the information that was in front of us in a broader context of the business.
Ms Perkovic, I do not regard that as answering counsel's question. Please ask the question again. I want you to listen to it and I want you to answer it directly as you can. Please put the question again.
Yeah. He's had it, but also a child would understand that. That's not answering the question. Ask the question again, and could you please ask it clearer? Why are you lying to trick us? Is it to trick us? And you can answer it as best you can. He gives her that rider.
Yeah. Oh dear. I mean, he's not being vicious. He's
not at all.
He's, as you say, he's playing the grandfather role. Come on, kids. You know better than
this. Sick of this. Yeah. Sick of all this. I've had a lifetime of this, and let's get to the point. I've got a month.
Yeah.
12 months to get this through. And as you say, the higher up you get, the clearer you can be, the more courageous you can be. So the takeout. You and I have been sitting here smiling and shaking our heads as we listen to these people trying to hide what their seething inner life is.
Yeah.
So I think one of the takeouts is to sit on your seething inner life and try to say the opposite to what you really think never really works.
Right.
We can hear it bubbling away.
Yeah.
So in the best circumstances, do try to align what you really mean with what's coming out of your mouth. That would be one takeout. It makes good drama, but you don't necessarily want to have people listening back and roaring with laughter and saying, have a listen to this, what rubbish.
Yeah. And her composure is completely shaken by the fact that she's clearly not prepared herself to be under fire in this way. So she's coming across like she's very misaligned.
However, there are many circumstances, and those are often the times you and I are brought in, when people are going to have to say, or they imagine they do, something to the board that is not exactly true. And I find in those situations, you're never going to be able to get away with lying as a human being. We can tell straight away.
Yeah.
If you can go down to something that is sincere, whenever possible, be as honest as you possibly can.
Yeah, find that place where you can reconcile what it is that you're saying with what your core beliefs and core motivation is. And if you can't, maybe there's a little red flag. Look at the nature of your work and consider if it's entirely ethical.
Well, otherwise you're going to end up under the gun like these poor saps.
Yeah. I mean, I have some sympathy for the human woman sitting there, in this tight spot. I don't have a lot of sympathy. I don't have any sympathy for the banks. But she would be better served perhaps writing her script or working with all the thousands of people that are providing input into what she can say, considering the circumstances that she's going to be talking in. So rather than expecting that it's going to be a vacuum and she's going to be able to just have her half hour where she can, robotically read off with the specific vocal direction that she's been given or whatever else, actually understanding that the environment is going to be hostile, she's going to be interrupted, she's going to be watching people losing interest as she starts to use that obfuscation and jargon language, and she's going to need to think about a way to still have a dynamic, somewhat interactive communication style.
And even worse, losing interest and then eye rolling, which is even harder for a human animal to sit and watch and keep. Yes, of course I love you, I do want to marry you, and they're rolling their eyes. But also, I've been into many of these things where people hire stacks of people to throw questions at them. This is going to be a hostile environment. This is what they're going to say. And often they make the mistake that you see with the politicians all the time. When they do throw something like that at you, just go back to the core message. Go back to what we've trained you. That doesn't work. No.
And somebody like this commissioner, he wasn't born yesterday. He's going to see that coming and he's not going to let her get away with that. It's got to come down to a simplicity of core message so that all of your spontaneous interaction with the people communicating with you is going to be simple and clear.
And answer the question again and again with ASIC, with the board. Answer the question. You see, the politicians are asked a question, and you just sit there and think, answer the question.
Yeah,
it's not clever to cleverly sidestep and go back and say, well, the Labour Party or the Liberal, we think, I hate you, piss off.
I really think there's a sea change coming with regards to what people find acceptable from politicians and corporate leaders.
How can you say that with Trump in the White House?
That's true.
We'll deal with that another time.
Oh, no, yeah. The looming figure of Trump.
Fix that.
Oh, well, we've solved that problem.
Yep.